For January the 17th, 2020, we talk about the Outer Wilds, Superhot VR, and we ask you about the worst noob traps in games. Welcome to Level 312. My name is Cole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm David Maismith on the level.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And welcome to the level. Wow, David, you really threw me off.
I'm trying to switch around. Usually at the end we say where we are. I figured I'd start it.
It's the centipede's dilemma. You made me think about it, and something that has literally been instinct forever is that I now have no... And you're listening to The Level, a podcast for people who love video games. There we go. Wow. Whew. Things become automatic and then they become hard. Welcome to this.
Stop talking about my sex life.
Jesus, man. Yeah. So I don't have any like huge thing at the opening here. Nothing big is going on generalities wise. So I'm just gonna throw it out to the room. Dennis, what's going on?
Oh gosh, not much. I'm gearing up for a bunch of work travel in the next 4 weeks, or 5 weeks here. So my rationale for buying a Switch in the first place, other than all the fun I've had with it so far, is going to become very relevant in just a bit here. So in 2 days, I'm hitting the road, and I think I'll be gone from home more than I am around over the next month. So. Getting that mileage out of that Switch.
Have you gotten one of the fitness circles?
No, I haven't, and I have. I was so confident that they would show up on Craigslist, and nada, zilch. I didn't find anything else on Craigslist, but there is a Ring Fit moratorium.
Yeah, that I'm really excited for that. That looks like a lot of fun.
Are you getting a Switch, David?
I think it is likely only a matter of time.
They're real good systems. Yeah.
Dennis, do you have any time sync games that you're going to get for your traveling?
No, I have all of Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And almost all of Super Smash Bros. I've done 5 missions of their story campaign.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
And then of course Pokemon in front of me.
Yes.
I figure from those mainstays, I have no need yet of kind of a time sync game.
Do the kids have a concept that when you go away, the Switch goes away too, or are they not attached enough to it that it makes a difference for them?
I don't know which way that one will go.
Yeah.
I think they kind of get the idea that it's kind of a with daddy thing, so I think it won't be on their minds as much if I'm not around. Yeah. I don't know if that will turn into mommy, I want to play Pokemon, and then mommy's like, now you have to explain it. We'll see.
Yeah.
I like the concept of you having to sit down with your kids and be like, all right, guys, I got some bad news. The Switch is going away for a couple of weeks. I will be here too, but yeah.
Like it's a deceased pet. Jeez. Oh. Yeah. Oh, well, you've prepared. You've prepared ahead of time. So you'll be fine. Still sucks. I hate travel so much. I get anxious when other people talk about traveling.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Normally I'm fine with it, and once a month is good times. This is like everything hit at once, so it is death by travel here. Hopefully not literally.
Oh, well, I mean, very hopefully. Yeah. David, how about you?
Yeah, honestly, not too much. Enjoying a bit of a warm spell here, so that's been kind of fun. But other than that, just sort of bobbing and weaving.
Yeah. Huh. It's like what, 70 degrees out there? Something like that?
Yeah, in that range.
Yeah. Like, is the city acting weird as a result of that, or are people just going about their business?
Pretty much just going about their business. Today was a little crazy because there's some sort of parade up in around Times Square, and then there was a major water line leak.
Oh, wow.
I guess someone mentioned that 5 blocks got flooded or something.
Jeez.
And so the train I normally take to work just wasn't running.
Oh, geez.
So had to figure out switch through a couple trains, but
Yeah.
such is life.
Yeah, we're relying on a system with that many points of failure.
You
Yeah.
were literally bobbing and weaving this morning on the train station.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No, we had so inclement weather here. Not this is only vaguely weather related, but the wind was so high that my internet had problems all weekend. Yeah.
What? I don't know how the internet works. I believe you, but then I have no idea how.
No,
the internet
it down to communication line because here in my neighborhood, the cable, the coaxial from the cable company goes. It's not buried. It just goes over lines ahead. So something it just was out sometimes, and then it was real slow. It was it really sucked. And then over by my dad's house, a gas line exploded.
Oh,
Whoa!
He's safe. I got a news alert. There was an explosion at blankety blank and blankety blank, and I was like, okay, I need to call them and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh well.
I like the Willy Wonka explanation that the wind is going to blow some pixels off course as they're floating through the air to you.
Yes.
It also accounts for static.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good.
This is apropos of nothing, but I recently read a conversation online that was sort of something I'd never thought of before, which was so the start of Neuromancer, describes the sky as being the color of a TV tuned to a dead channel, and the discussion that for various generations that presents completely different descriptions of what the sky looks like.
Yeah, because
so blue.
Right. Yeah, because for me, it would be gray,
Right.
But for somebody who comes up today, it probably would just be blue, 02550 or 00255. Different.
Yeah, just very, very dark blue.
Yeah. I need to reread Neuromancer. I've got Shadowrun on the brain, and I've got Cyberpunk on the brain. I don't know. I need to read that new William Gibson novel that came out. That's apparently really good.
Got to prep yourself for all the references that are going to be in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
Oh no, you have to prep yourself for all the references that are going to be in the book too that it never bothers to explain.
Yeah.
But,
what's going on with you, Ben?
Yeah, continuing the weather train conversation. It's snowing in Seattle, and so people are freaking out about that. And so I got an email from my landlord, and I got messages from people at work or whatever saying buy non-perishable food, get extra blankets in case the power goes out, blah blah blah. And it's just it's a couple inches of snow. It's not even sticking.
Yeah.
So
it's I'm from Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem is there's some steep streets, and so when they get some snow, then those will shut down. And buses will shut down that use those. But
that makes sense. And we know this. When you go over to Kentucky, all of a sudden when it snows, people don't know how to deal with it, and people not knowing how to drive in snow is more dangerous than the snow itself. So
also, it's Kentucky.
It's one of those things where every part of the country has will make fun of the state next to it, because I feel this even happens within states, because people in northern Ohio say this about people in southern Ohio, but then people in northern Ohio will make fun of Michigan like that too. But
yeah. I just from where I'm at, if you wanted to shit on something, or even just where you come from, you would just add the suffix "tucky" to the end of it. Mantucky is what they called Mansfield. People who just wanted to not be around here, stuff like that. That's weird.
Hamiltucky, you can attach Kentucky. You can portmanteau Kentucky with almost anything.
Yeah.
Mantucky sounds very not great.
Yeah.
I went to a strip club like that. It was not for me. But,
it's, people there seemed like they were having a good time. Good for them. Yeah. But do you have non-perishables? Are you going to be safe?
I'm fine. Like the grocery, I went to the grocery store. It's fine. There's nothing. They're not out of anything. Like everything's normal. Yeah. The snow's not sticking, but they dumped a whole bunch of salt on the road.
That's good. That's good for everybody's cars.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about it. But in cool related news, I ate with one of my old coworkers who moved to Google, so I got to eat free Google food today. So that was fun.
Did it taste better than the food you normally get?
My company doesn't give us any food for free, so by default, yes, I guess it tasted better than nothing. So, but no, it was nice, wholesome food. It was like a lot of vegetarian options, and then it was like pesto flavored stuff instead of like fat flavored stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
so it was good.
That's yum.
Yeah. And then over the weekend, I started reading a book about disinformation campaigns, and so that has been interesting.
Which one?
It's called "This Is Not Propaganda."
Ah, gotcha. Okay. No, I a while ago I read one called I forget what it is. It's like everything is possible, nothing is true, or something like that. Specifically about the history of Russian disinformation.
Yeah, the first chapter's on Russia troll farms, so that's fun.
Huh. Yeah, fascinating topic.
Just as a point of order, pesto's main ingredient is olive oil. Pesto is also fat flavored.
Oh, that feels like disinformation to me.
Fake news. Fake news.
Yeah, just if you're picking an oil,
vegetable and fat, not just pure fat.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, and I don't have too much going on besides work and stuff. Like the big thing that I've got, it'll lead into the grind. So, how do you guys feel about doing that? Getting started with that?
That sounds like a plan to me.
Okay. So we've got the usual kind of show for you. We've got the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with the grind? The grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. Do you guys mind if I go first?
Go for it.
Okay. I've been doing a lot of VR.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah. So I just part of it has been okay. So the instigating factor is I didn't know what the Oculus Quest was because everything Oculus, all of its like press and marketing just kind of like washes off of me. But then at the end of the year, I read all of these reviews of the Oculus Quest. I was like, oh, that's exactly what I want. And it was like back ordered. And then I just happened to be browsing and I saw that they were in stock at Walmart. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I ordered it because I like my PSVR and I want to mess around with more PC VR. And I have an Oculus Quest, and I did a little bit of PSVR playing too while I was waiting for it to get here. So this has been a very virtually real week for me.
Now I know exactly what the Oculus Quest is, but for those who might not, could you explain?
Okay. I'll start by saying one of my biggest problems with VR is I hate being tethered to a thing.
Yes.
Additionally, I hate having stuff set up, so like the PSVR, it's fine. You've got that camera that tracks you and it does a well enough job. But like any of the other stuff, it seems like you've got to set up like weird little towers and sensors and stuff. The Oculus VR is a completely standalone VR helmet. So it's got like the standard Oculus display and stuff, but instead of having a line that goes out to a computer, it just has basically a cell phone built into the front of it, like a really fast, like Snapdragon Android monstrosity kind of thing. And so like it's completely standalone. It charges up on batteries and you play it. Additionally, it doesn't require any sensors to be set up. It just has an array of cameras on it that sense everything around you and sense your position in space. and boom, you put it on. And you use the controller. It has like the touch controllers, like you've seen those with like the ring on it to track where your thumbs and fingers are. And you looking through the cameras inside of it, you just draw the safe space around you for room scale VR. And in any game, no matter where you're at, if you go up to the edge of like where your safe space is, it like puts a grid there and says, hey, you're getting close to the edge.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It reminds me. I forget the name of it. You guys might remember, but it reminds me of the technique when you're rendering stuff that instead of a light source emitting ray tracing, instead of a light source emitting rays that then the computer has to figure out like all of them, it only like emits reverse rays from wherever the camera is pointing and figures out what to do based on that. It's the same idea, just
like a version of like frustrum calling or something like that. And so like I read about that, I was like, oh, it's like standalone. It is far cheaper than other VR kind of things. Right now, I'm only used to the PSVR, which is already low end, but still is fine enough for me. So it was like, and something that stuck out to me is like, okay, playing a standard VR thing where you're sitting still and then moving moving around and you have your view, that will mess with my motion sickness. But like when I've played in VR. When I played on PSVR, anything that was at like room scale, like Job Simulator, right? It comes with the, it comes like there's a demo disc that has that on there. Like, oh, you're just like standing in a space and you're navigating, you are walking around in a small little box. Like that doesn't trigger my motion sickness at all because the movement only happens when I look in a particular direction.
Okay.
Like you're just in a space. So I was like, oh yeah, like room scale, that would actually work for me. Or a game that was like meant to be played in stationary mode or something like that. So, all of this is like me kind of justifying why I got it because it's it's like $400. So take or leave that, but like that is relatively cheap in the realm of VR. But also like trying to explain because like VR has never been very well explained before. I've like when I've heard about it in other podcasts, Dennis, you've done a good job, but like notice like that I always ask questions like where are you in the world and what is it showing you? How do you move around in this? It's all it's kind of something that like I had to kind of get into it to understand it and see, but also like I kind of want to try to communicate like what is cool about this, specifically as somebody who started out really skeptical of it, but like having played the stuff that I've played, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, this actually rules. And I wish somebody would have evangelized it to me the way that I feel like gushing about it to everybody else.
So talk about what you've played because I'm insanely curious now.
Yeah, so it comes with a couple of like demos and things like that. It also I've got this, but I haven't played it. But there's like a whole like Darth Vader story campaign thing going on. But like,
that's supposed to be good.
Yeah, and it's got the some of the usual stuff, and like the things I'm going to describe are not necessarily new. Like, oh, there's a demo for Beat Saber. Okay, cool. Beat Saber is really good. Also, you're just like standing there looking down a tunnel of notes coming at you. But like, I don't know. I hadn't played Superhot VR yet. That is so that is the one game that I bought, the full game that I bought. Just because I want to play more demos to figure out what's going to be worth it. But like Superhot VR is kind of a revelation.
It is the killer app for VR, no doubt.
Yeah. So people who know, we've talked about Superhot before. That is the first person shooter that has like a really like kind of lo-fi spare aesthetic. Like all the enemies are red polygonal humanoids. The environments are white and everything you can interact with is red or black. And it is a first person shooter where you are put in these kind of limited situations. You're putting these limit. Sorry, that you just shared a funny meme, Dennis.
Yeah, you made me think of that, and I couldn't not.
Yeah, of the Order 1066 killing the younglings, but Anakin sees the Jedi children as Beat Saber props. Yeah. Anyway, so Superhot. The idea is you're put in these very limited situations. People are coming at you and trying to kill you, but time only moves when you move. So on desktop, this is really fun because it is more of a puzzle game because you're trying to work out the order of operations to take out these guys, but you have the time to plan it. And what you're trying to do is conserve movement because they're going to be firing guns at you. When you fire a gun, it makes their bullets advance, more quickly, things like that. When put in VR, it's, and I forgive me if I'm using a term of art incorrectly, David, but it's kind of like you are doing a form of Tai Chi, where you are moving very slowly and contorting in order to avoid bullets that are coming in. But it's not like by reflex. It's about okay, I need to bend down in this particular way because I also need to punch this guy who's coming in from this direction. So it's it's like playing a game of Twister where you could there's no time limit. You move as quickly or as slowly as you want, but you have to stay standing up.
And I'm really curious about this because you now have room scale VR.
Yes.
Do you keep your feet fixed in a location, or when playing Superhot, are you kind of walking around your full space?
So you kind of walking around. What it does, I've never played the the PSVR version of Superhot. So I don't know how they handle it there. Each level is kind of played out from, you have multiple different, almost like nodes that you're at. So you'll start and you have a, what amounts to, a 6 foot by 6 foot area that you can move around, but you don't have to move very far, in any of this. And then when you kill everybody there, you warp to the next one. So it's not like you're navigating a space, but I don't know, it'll put cover over in a certain way, in a certain area, and you have to go, get behind that in order to block some bullets and stuff. So it's very limited moving around, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I think, and this might just be PSVR centric because they don't have those boundaries. I've always been neurotic about if I'm playing a VR game, my feet are not leaving the position they started.
Yes.
I'm just so confident that I'll get turned around or punch my TV or whatever. So that results into the Uber twister where your feet are already glued to the ground and you're still doing these contortions, but at least I don't feel comfortable moving my feet to support myself better.
It took me a little bit to learn to trust the Guardian system, but it does work for you. There's really cool. a later game that I played a demo for that I'll talk about a little bit, but.
Yeah, I would believe that because I treat Superhot as almost a turret game, where I'm not moving from the place it starts me, even though there are kind of limited places you could move. I bet that changes the dynamics pretty significantly.
Yeah. But this was something that I felt about Superhot on the actual PC. You do feel like a badass. Somebody's coming at you with a gun, you punch them, and then you catch their gun as you pick up one that's kind of on the ground, and then you shoot one guy and then another. Here, you are doing that, with your arms. I am punching a guy. With my left hand, catching, I've picked up a gun with my right hand. I punch him with my left, catch that gun, take my right hand and shoot somebody on my left, and then cross my left hand to shoot somebody who's coming at me from the right, kind of behind me. I don't know. It's super dorky, and I understand that I look like a fucking dingus, and I would really want to it's possible to look in my front windows and see me doing this. And that brings shame to my family, but it's but it feels super cool. I don't know, it Superhot. Every VR experience cannot be gauged against it because it feels like it is custom made for it. But in terms of selling me on the overall experience of the Oculus Quest in specific and room scale VR and in general, it is a fantastic thing. Killer app is the right word for it that you used earlier, Dennis.
I'm going to give you this one, Kole, and you tell me how long it takes to find a relevant place to use it. But
okay.
If you're aiming in one direction and need to fire in the opposite, rather than turning your hand with the gun, just drop the gun from your top hand down into your bottom hand, and the gun automatically recenters to whatever direction your bottom hand is. Is pointing. They're like, there's that, like going behind your back is sometimes the best way to aim, although that like completely loses the VR tracking. So whatever.
But on this, it doesn't.
that is true. And I hate you for that. But yeah, it is just, there's so many ways to feel cool playing that game. Look dumb, feel super cool.
Look dumb, feel cool.
So, Cole, have you, or actually any of you, have any of you guys looked at I Expect You to Die?
That's relatively new. I've seen that on the store, but I have not like seen the particulars of it.
Yeah, it's basically you're a spy, James Bond style spy, but in order to do the VR thing of not having you be able to move, your Q gadget is basically something that gives you telekinesis.
Okay.
But you're in all of these just kind of, it's kind of like a surgeon simulator type thing, except applied to doing James Bond stuff. So disarming bombs, fighting your way out of an area, stuff like that. But if nothing else, it's the entire thing is worth seeing, if for no other reason than the start of it is a James Bond style, jazzy, song number that's entirely in VR. So,
nice.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I think you might dig.
Okay. Yeah.
All those tasteful silhouettes you can reposition so the light doesn't protect it. A sleazy experience.
Yeah. The other thing that I played that was a little bit less successful, just because it's not the kind of thing that I'm really looking for because of my particular, let's say, simulation sickness, motion sickness, is a game made by Oculus called Journey of the Gods. So you're playing as like a knight. You're like this champion of like Greek style deities. And this is a game where your primary thing is like almost like a Zelda style thing. You've got a sword and you've got a shield, and you can block incoming projectiles and things like that. And you also have a crossbow that's kind of cool. Like you have to recock it after every shot. And like this would be fun if it was like people coming up and I was doing sword fight stuff with it. However, you have to move around, and like you can do a little bit where, okay, if I need to turn around, I will, physically turn around because it's room scale tracking. That's fine. However, like you're going to be moving across Zelda style stages in first person. And so the effect is that it's like half of my movement is physical, but half of my movement is me gliding around or the world gliding around beneath me. And it's super disorienting, even if the actual combat of blocking incoming projectiles and slicing at things is not necessarily, terrible. Right. So that stuff is cool. And kind of the gimmick is that you can enter God mode and then you are looking at, like a tabletop version of the area that you're at. And like the two powers that are in the demo is like, you can grab onto trees and make them grow. So that when you drop back down to human scale, like they're big enough to provide cover. Or you can reach up into the sky and grab thunderbolts and throw them down at your enemies.
So how does it handle the transition between human and God perspective in a way that doesn't completely disorient you?
It's more like a literal tabletop kind of thing where like the actual world fades out and then this diorama fades in closer to you. Yeah. one thing that they do in order to minimize the effect of motion sickness is, as you are moving around with the left stick, doing kind of the gliding around the world, as you look around physically with your head, it kind of dims the periphery of the screen, and so it gives you like a very small circle, like an area of focus that is fully lit, in order to I don't know, make it so that the periphery winding by doesn't actually like make you sick. But like I stopped playing this. I got done with the demo and it was like, whoa, yeah, moving around like that in VR is not satisfying to me. It's really too much.
You gotta devote more of your essence to your cyber deck.
Yep.
Most games default to the teleport method of moving, where you just kind of warp from place to place.
Yeah, this one was not that. Yeah. So, like I liked it in principle, but I was more into like the Space Pirate Trainer, where like you were standing in one place and you had the gun and the shield, that kind of stuff. But so I'm feeling out like what kind of VR experiences I really enjoy. I feel like I've been going on, but the thing that I really appreciate about this, and one of the reasons why the Quest was like, oh yeah, this is actually like a good investment. You can buy a special cord from Oculus and you plug it into your PC, and guess what you've got? You've got basically an Oculus Rift S, and any VR game you have on your PC that supports Oculus, which is most of them, you can just play there. So like I could play Subnautica entirely in VR.
Hey.
Yeah. So like I feel bad making a sales pitch for something that Facebook makes. But like I really had a good time with it. You know, there's stuff that I am happy that I still have a PSVR for. Like I've got other games that I could talk about, but I want to see the floor. And I want to kind of stay focused on the Oculus stuff, but like, this is really cool. I dig it a lot, and I'm looking forward to playing with it some more.
Nice.
Yeah. So any questions about those?
No, I'm excited to see where you go next.
Have you played Subnautica yet?
I played like the regular Subnautica, non-VR, back around the time it came out, either in beta or full release. I played like five or so hours of it, but then I just kind of dropped off of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I went back in, I would start from scratch.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be absolutely be terrifying.
But how terrifying?
Oh, quite.
Let's find
the
out.
most. Yeah. No, yeah. Just you don't know how hot the stove is till you touch it. You know. Yeah. So that's me shilling for a Facebook company, but I've had a good time. I thought it was supposed to arrive today based on the initial shipping information that I got. But actually it showed up on Saturday, so I had like a couple of days. Like a thing that is true about the VR experiences that I've done is they are very good for bite-sized kind of things, like 20 to 30 minute play sessions. So like the games are like made for that because people aren't just aren't comfortable in VR space, and that is perfect for me. The 20 to 30 minute kind of deal. So
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and that's all I got. I didn't mean to hog the time there, but
you were
good. Very cool.
I don't know. The order's out the window, so I'm going to go to you, Ben.
All right. I only got one that I want to talk about. Is I finally beat Outer Wilds.
Okay.
Which I'd started with the week.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good. It stumbles a little bit at the end for me. There are a couple of puzzles that I was a little bit disappointed in, and I had to like go and look up solutions for.
Oh, geez.
So I was a little bit bummed about that. There's like maybe like 30 to 40 different like clues that you have to find in the game in general. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of places where like the solution to one of the puzzles was gated behind solving the puzzle, if that makes sense. Like, so speaking in very vague terms, there's like a certain clue that they give you, which is kind of like a mapping of something. And so it kind of provides like 5 different solutions at once, but that is stuck behind figuring out one of the solutions, I guess, or one of the mappings. So like yeah, there are a couple of things like that made me like think about the game design afterwards.
Like a cart and horse kind of problem. Like, oh, they did play this. How would I have known that without already having the solution?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing I was a little bit bummed by.
Yeah.
Because I definitely was like, for some reason in my mind, I was comparing this game to The Witness a whole bunch. Because it's kind of similar, where it's like there's a lot of clues all around the world, and it's your job to kind of explore it in any order at your leisure and kind of put things together. And so I was hoping for kind of, there's definitely a payoff at the end of the game, but I was kind of hoping for more, I guess, or that it was like more, maybe better handled. Yeah. So I don't know. So it's very kind of like mixed feelings about it. There's still a lot of like really cool stuff in the game. But yeah, it was not like the A+ game I was looking for. It was kind of stumbled a little bit at the end. So, yeah, I don't know if I have too much more to say than that. Yeah. They do have, similar to Subnautica, they do have like some creatures in the game that also like freak you out a whole bunch. But it's only like one type, and it's only like one planet, so it's kind of weird that it's like sandbox like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's still a game worth checking out. Not many games give you the option of jumping into a black hole, so you know.
is doing so necessary for solving any of the puzzles, or is it like it's not
necessary, and a lot of times it happens accidentally. Like you fall off a ledge, and you're like, "Oh no, I got to deal with this now." Yeah. But you know, it's you have a rocket pack, so you can try and not get in the event horizon. So
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big one. I think I spent most of the weekend playing that. I've also played a little bit of Deep Rock Galactic still, and mostly with people on the show too. So that's cool. Nice. I finally got a character to level 25, so I was happy about that. And so when you do that, it gives you a mission to promote them, quote unquote, and it unlocks this other game feature that they have. It's called like Matrix Cores. It's like ways to upgrade your guns even further, I guess. But I haven't gotten that completely, and it unlocks a couple different game modes. There's this thing that it calls deep dives, which I hate that expression. Yeah. But it's like 3 missions you do back to back, and it's like a harder difficulty. And so I did the first one of those, but then I didn't want to play 2 more missions, so I turned off the game. So I don't know if it saves the progress or not. So we'll find out later. But yeah, I don't know. It's still a really good game to play with friends, though. So I think that experience still holds. Yeah. But yeah. They seem to be introducing new modes. Like they're kind of like slowly rolling them out. And so this week I played with David, and I think Dennis was in the game too. Yep. Where they had like a low oxygen game where you have to like follow the robot that you put the materials in the entire time. And if you have an oxygen meter, and so if you get too far away from it, it slowly goes down. And so sometimes you forget that you're running out of oxygen. It really changes the gameplay a whole bunch. You can't kind of explore on your own. So that's kind of like how they're implementing like Left 4 Dead type rules where you like stick together for the most part. But
yeah, and it's so interesting because you guys heard me cave live on air last week and get this game, and so I've had it for a week now, and played it probably 3 times, I think. So I'm very, very new to it. But that's the first time where I felt like there was a wrinkle that forced the game out of that kind of background mindless thing to do while you banter kind of deal. And I will also take responsibility for getting the whole team killed on that mission because I did not understand how the drill works. So,
I made it to the end.
That's true. You did get out.
But it was a harrowing experience.
Ben abandoned us and saved himself. So thanks for that, bud.
Hey, otherwise the mission would have been a failure, okay? I had to think about the experience overall.
Think about the experience points.
But it was we were like very deep in a cave, and the exit drill was like really far like above us, I guess. And so they tried to drill straight to it, but in any like the thing that you have that keeps oxygen or whatever has already gone back to the ship. So like you have to supply drops also have oxygen, so we were sticking out near that. And so as a scout, you have a grappling hook, and so I had to like go as quickly as I can back through the cave to try and make it to the ship. And I like almost ran out of oxygen, and so it starts depleting your life, and I almost ran out of that. But yeah, Whatever. It was a fun time.
Can you mod it so that the game plays the Sonic drowning theme as you're running out of oxygen?
No.
I mean, you would know it. You would know it's happening. It wouldn't catch you by surprise.
I don't want that much stress.
I mean, I can't say it would make you make good decisions, but
it would make me shut down my computer immediately.
Right.
I never felt, because that mission was like they have like a cave size and then they have like danger level as two measures of the difficulty of the game, and that one was max for both. But even as a new player who was playing the driller class for the first time, I did not feel like that was like I was being outclassed by the other people. Like, you had a level 25 or at that point, I don't know what character. But I didn't feel like I was kind of dragging behind everyone else in the way that I would if it was a more traditional MMO or something.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what I think of that decision yet. Like there is a sense of progression in that I can put new mods on my weapons and I see the numbers go up. But I don't feel at a disadvantage right now. So it'll be interesting to see if, like, I don't know if there will be clear times or more elite raids or stuff like that that force those differences more into the foreground. But right now I feel like a new player can hop in alongside a very experienced player and not feel like they aren't kitted correctly for whatever mission.
But there's one thing that's curious too. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so in addition to what you're talking about, the overall mission difficulty and mission length, you also, when you select a mission, you can set its difficulty from 1 to 5, and once you get to 4 or above, the difficulty jumps dramatically. So I'd say that's where I think it starts to make much more of a difference. Especially tends to be in terms of ammo economy and then also certain abilities. So, for example, the engineers has the ability to shoot out and basically create little platforms that'll stick to the walls. And you eventually unlock the ability to make it so that if you land on one of them, you don't take fall damage. And that becomes a big deal. Things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a lot of like small quality of life improvements that you get as you level up that, like, as you were saying, Dennis, like, it doesn't feel like they're too powerful. But then, like, if you go back and start from the beginning, then you feel very deprived of some abilities. So it's kind of weird how they handle that. I was also going to add that when you promote your character, it resets their level to level 1, but you still have all the things that you unlocked with your guns. You can still buy all the unlocks that you unlocked the first time. So I'm not really sure what that's doing, Yeah, I don't know why. You get a star by your name after you restart, so I don't know.
Yeah, one thing I do find frustrating is, like you mentioned, when you respec the first time, or whatever they call it, promote, you get the ability to get overclock gear, which are modifications for your weapons that are a little more random, more of a loot drop type of thing. But one of the things that's frustrating is in order to get them, you have to, or at least one way to get them is to complete very challenging in mission bonus objectives. But one of the frustrating things is you only actually unlock the ability to get them, to get credit for them on that one character. So I've now, since promoting a character, have completed the bonus objectives several times, but I happen to not be running that class, so I didn't get anything for them.
Yeah, that seems weird that they would do it like that.
Yep.
I guess you gotta promote your other characters, I guess. Which class do you have promoted?
The gunner.
Okay.
Which I would say, as a side note, that's a weird character in that it's probably the easiest one to start out with, but once you get to about hazard level 4, it becomes very, very difficult to play. because the game really starts to emphasize kiting, and the gunner is designed to be this slow, heavy artillery class. Mm-hmm. So survival and running out of ammo become major problems.
Yeah. Yeah, the gunner and the driller are both like that too, where they're a lot slower moving. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I got with that game. The game's still good.
Yeah. Dennis, what have you been playing besides Deep Rock Galactic?
Yeah, so there was Deep Rock Galactic. I've played more Pokemon, or more specifically, Luke has played more Pokemon. Nothing huge to report. I think we've only played a couple times in the past week. We got to the first big wild area, and I was like, oh, this is great. I'm slightly ahead of him in the story on my own save, and I kind of want to just stay ahead so I can know the puzzles or know where tough spots might be, that sort of thing. And I was like, okay, this is great. The wild area, he'll camp out here for a while, and that'll be a nice buffer. He ran straight through to the other side without fighting a single Pokemon. And so I was like, well, I guess I've got some work to do to stay ahead on the story, because I had meticulously gone through and done all the raids and found all the Pokemon that I could, etc. And he just blew right through, which it's interesting to see the game accommodate that.
Yeah.
And it's making me realize how ridiculously over-leveled I am in my save for everything I'm doing. So that's fun. But the most amusing thing is he got to the next area, and they have an early battle where you're trying to check into your hotel. And there's a group, Team Yell, they call themselves, that is in front of you and just kind of
name.
Yeah. They're just kind of in front of you and messing around at the front desk, blocking everyone's way. And they say, we're not going to leave unless you battle us. Or, we're not going to move unless you battle us. So Luke goes up and talks to them, and they say that, and you have the option to say, all right then, or apologize. And Luke chooses apologize and gets in line behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of waits there for a couple minutes, and looks over at me at one point, looks back at the screen, and I kind of look at him, and he kind of waits a little longer, and he takes a breath and he goes, I think I'm going to wait outside.
So he doesn't know that the game will not advance. It will not advance if he doesn't take action.
Right. He's waiting for Team Yell to finish up their business so he can go along. And so he's like, he goes outside, starts walking around. He turns to me, he's like, maybe they'll be gone when I come back. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And so he walks around, goes back in and sees that they're still there. What? Oh, goes up, talks to him again, and again apologizes and gets back in line. And that's the point where we ran out of time. So I'm counting on Team Yell to hold Luke back until I can get ahead on the story. But I posted a video of it, and I'll share it in the Slack as well. But he's kind of sitting there looking at them, and I finally cracked, and I was like, I don't think they're going to move unless you battle them. And he goes, yeah, but I'm afraid they have stronger Pokemon. I was like, oh God, my kid's getting bullied in a video game.
Oh no. Wow, we just weird lessons. I would not look at that encounter that they put in and think that there would be an anti-pattern present there.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny. So we'll see what happens the next time he plays, if he works up the courage to stand up to him. I'm sure that will be a triumph when he gets through. Still no evolution yet.
Okay.
But you guys will be the first to know when there is one. Mm-hmm. And that's overall Pokemon. I've like I said, I've been playing it myself just to stay ahead. And it is a very fun game to play with the sound off, or while you're doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen to a podcast while I'm playing it or whatever, and there's enough thought where you can match up the types for advantages or your attack types for advantages and that sort of thing. And there's a little dopamine squirt of catching new Pokemon, but it's all so ridiculously it's me over min-maxing for the stuff. Yeah. And I could totally do what Luke does, which is just kind of pick a favorite attack and stick with that no matter what. And be totally fine. So it's a very low stress experience. And I know there's more to it. I know people get very into it when you actually start battling other real people and that sort of thing. I don't know if I'll get there or not. I've put a couple of Pokemon that I caught duplicates, and you can do this surprise trade where you put your Pokemon out and the game will just automatically find someone to trade with.
Okay.
I wasn't exactly clear on the criteria, but my guess is it was just to get something, that you didn't already have. And it has not worked for me yet. And I don't know if I just don't have people on my friends list or what's going on there, but that's weird.
I would not rely on any Nintendo game having an online component that either makes sense or functions. Yeah. So I wouldn't be so quick to blame yourself.
Yeah, that's fair. And then to close out, I'm actually going to wrap back around to VR.
Boo.
So I can't remember how much I mentioned last show, but I had the thought of maybe I can use VR as a bit of a carrot for fitness stuff. I've fallen off that wagon pretty hard, and I was looking at getting some weighted wristbands, which I did, and then playing Beat Saber with that. That's a whole new workout when the swords actually have weight. That's something interesting. But I also bought a game called BOXVR. Okay. And it is overtly like a fitness game. Okay. But takes the Beat Saber concept and just replaces the different directional arrows with with jabs, crosses, and uppercuts. And in addition to that, they will also have walls that you have to duck under or dodge around. And you just do a Beat Saber routine with boxing mechanics set to some pretty badass music.
Cool.
And wind up completely drenched in sweat as a result. So I've been doing it for a little over a week now, I think. And it's been like, this is the thing in my brain, like that clicks with fitness, and I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. Been doing it with the. Oh, go ahead, David.
I said nice.
Oh, okay. I thought they had a question.
What music do they have in the game?
It's a range. So there's like EDM type of stuff like you would find in Beat Saber. There's more pop music. There's some a good amount of rap. In general, it's the kind of stuff you would expect to find in like a gym. Just sans a lot of the heavy metal, I would say.
I would have guessed it was all the greatest hits of Survivor. Just Rocky soundtrack 1 to 7.
That would be nice. No, they it's nothing mainstream. Like I haven't heard a song that I recognized yet. But they've all been nice, punchy, fun to work out to. And you're not buying it explicitly for the soundtrack. You're buying it for the fitness component, and it nails that. And you want to talk about motivation? It's got a combo counter for how many punches you correctly hit in a row, and it is the hitbox on them is fairly restrictive. Like it demands you to be pretty accurate and to actually put some momentum into your swings, and the motivation that gives you to like stay engaged and keep pushing when you're close to the end of a 45-minute routine is impressive. Like again, that's the thing that tricks my mind into being excited about fitness, is watching that little number in the corner go up. Standing in direct contradiction to that, though, is the fact that until I figured it out, the game has horrible problems with frame rate stuttering.
Ooh.
And it's more noticeable towards the beginning, like the first 2 or so tracks that you'll play, but it is super noticeable, and in VR that is a cardinal sin. Like you can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't get motion sick in VR, but that like causes me to lose my balance a little bit when the world is kind of stuttering around you. Well,
I mean, especially a game that requires like timing like this. This is a rhythm game. Yeah,
exactly. And that was even worse than the disorientation was the fact that I was breaking my damn combo, which is the entire reason I'm there. And so I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what's going on here? I wound up figuring out through wonderful Reddit that if you turn off your internet connection, so you go into your settings and just deselect connect to the internet before you start the game, that solves the problem.
That's like fixing your AC by flushing your toilet.
I know, which leads me to the question of what the hell are you doing with my internet while I'm playing this game?
Yeah.
So so I know coding is weird and squashing bugs takes you to interesting places.
Yeah.
But that just seems concerning to me. But I sent in like a ticket for support or whatever to their service, and they assured that they're like working on a fix for it. Turn off the internet for now. That seems to fix it, and hopefully we'll have this ironed out soon. So at least they were responsive on that front. But yeah, super weird that's the thing that fixes it.
Yeah.
But when it runs smoothly, it's a great workout, especially if you're wearing weighted gloves. It's a ton of fun if you like anything in the vein of Beat Saber or DDR or anything like that. And yeah, it has daily goals for time spent in game. It's got counters for your high scores. There's a lot there motivation wise that I've really tapped into as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
BOXVR.
BOXVR. Yeah. Every workout has like an actual the trainer who designed it attached to it, and I've already found myself like, oh, I like that trainer, I like this other trainer, so that's an interesting setup too.
It's a weird thing. I hear commercials for Peloton a lot, and I guess that's just a bike where somebody yells at you. is like I could ride I could get people to yell at me for free is the thing.
Yeah,
people yell at me all the
How's
time.
that? Just go on the internet.
Yeah. I wasn't really making an observation about trainers. I was just being glib.
No, it's true. And this is like the best of both worlds in that like I've got the trainer aspect of I feel like this was curated by somebody. Like there's thought and intention in a personality I can attach to it, but they have zero presence in the actual activity, which is great.
Nice.
But yeah, this is very much like just Peloton for boxing. And I'm down with that. I'm here for that.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have any questions about it. It is Beat Saber is a good is a good comparison, I think, based on what I'm seeing here.
It's less oriented to trick you. Like Beat Saber kind of has you figuring out these weird rhythms with your motions and everything. And BOXVR is a little more straightforward than that. But otherwise, it's got that same feel to it.
Nice. Cool. Is that all you had, Dennis?
That is me.
Okay. David, round us out.
Yeah, I've basically got nothing other than Deep Rock Galactic. I also promoted a character.
Okay.
And so I'm just getting on to Endgame. But yeah, overall it's been a lot of fun, although I have started getting a couple of matches with teammates that just didn't use their I guess utility abilities, so like setting up zip lines, deploying platforms, lights, things like that. And that is incredibly frustrating.
Were they high level or low level?
I'd say mid to low level. So, I mean, it's probably understandable, but it's still just really, really frustrating.
Yeah. So one of the abilities as a scout is they can shoot a light that lights up like the entire cave. So when you have a scout who doesn't light up areas where everyone is, that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, and I think honestly my biggest frustration, even though it's not necessarily the most important, is engineers that don't build platforms for the scouts, because that takes almost no effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any follow-up questions.
The engineers that have learned to abuse their platform and, when a wave is coming in, will just block off all but one way of the enemies coming for you are worth their weight in gold.
Nice.
I am very interested to see what high level play for this looks like.
It is cool. You can make a bridge with the platforms because they can connect to one another. And so even though the height change can't be too dramatic, if you have like a long enough horizontal or whatever, you can just make a slow rising bridge if you need to get somewhere.
Yeah, similarly, a fairly common tactic is the zip line. You can travel on very slowly, and you can reverse direction at any time. So it's fairly common to just shoot it above the fight and slide back and forth, because your enemies in this game are basically the bugs from Starship Troopers. So the vast majority of them are melee attackers. So you can just kind of strafe back and forth firing on them.
Yeah, spritz.
Yeah, spritz them with bullets.
Well, that sounds like a segment to me.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you ask the nice people?
Yeah, I want to hear about the biggest noob traps in gaming. Not so that we can shame the people that use them, but so that we can help people out of them faster. So what item or tactic, etc., seems super good at first, but then it gets less and less useful the better you know the game.
Yeah, and Mike starts out with one that when I saw the text of the question, I was like, this would be my answer, but somebody's going to say it first, and they did. Mike says, I'll start with the obvious one from Dark Souls, Drake it till you make it, referring to the Drake sword, which you fire arrows at a dragon's tail till you get it, and it has very good starting stats, but it does not scale because you cannot modify it. You cannot improve it. Lindsay responds to that saying, I will up the ante and say Tiny Being's Ring or Broken Pendant. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say how long Tiny Being's Ring was on my finger.
Which one is that? I don't recall that one.
It's the one that it says it regenerates health, but it actually gives you a little HP boost.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Drake, I'm just going to say this because it's hard for me to think of anything else. The Drake sword, I don't think it is if you get it, you just have to also understand that, upgrading equipment is a thing, because that is the thing that it doesn't let you learn. You have to invest materials and souls into upgrading regular stuff, and eventually it will be outpaced. The similar thing happens with a lightning sword that you get at Sen's Fortress as well. That is the next, or the lightning spear rather. That is the next mid noob trap that happens. And you can just coast through a good half of the game without realizing you upgrade weapons.
Although it seems often when I read beginner's guides, a lot of people advocate just getting a lightning weapon and then just using that until you're in the New Game Plus.
Sometimes it just depends. You do not get the ability to get a lightning weapon, to make one until after in Orlando. You don't get the ember for that. And the one that you get in Sens is a little bit before you're able to make them on your own.
Yeah, I'm so
Orlando,
sad.
isn't that the place with the ghosts?
No, that's New Londo.
Okay.
Yeah. What were we going to say, Notice?
I was just going to comment that it's so sad that this is fresh in my mind because Code Vein does the same thing, that applying any status effect to a weapon nerfs its scaling to the point that makes it not worth it.
Yeah. It makes it very situational.
Yeah, it's so incredibly situational that especially in a Souls-like game where you kind of have builds around a single weapon, and you're not really going to have enough copies of that weapon to swap around. And even then, when you get into the place to use it, you're not going to jump into your menus to switch over because it doesn't actually pause the game. There's so much to that system, and it could be so interesting, but it just feels like the designers have no interest in making it worth
the different variations viable. Yeah.
I mean, Bloodborne kind of subverts that with the challenge dungeons, where you can just get as many versions of anything that you want.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, if you feel like engaging with the chalice dungeons. Yeah.
Well, and technically Code Vein is, you don't need to do a strength build. You just have to put on your strength shirt.
Yeah.
So that technically would, support swapping out a bit more, but it's still too clunky, and there's too much negative momentums from the game's predecessors to justify it.
Do they follow the normal policy of video game strength shirts, where on the female characters, the greater the strength bonus, the less actual shirt there is?
It's Code Vein, of course.
Yes. David, what does Casey say?
Casey first seconds the Drake sword and then says that their answer would actually be a reverse noob trap. In Enter the Gungeon, the starter gun for each character has infinite ammo, and as you get better at the game, you use it more and more so that you can save the good guns for bosses and later floors. But as a new player, you want to use those new guns and spend so much time on each one that you never get good at any of them.
That's a weird dynamic.
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, the games that as you learn them kind of become two games. Like Enter the Gungeon, there's the use your pistol for all it's worth game, and then when you find the boss, it's the second game of all right, now break out the big guns.
It's weirdly like an MMO, like different requirements depending on if it's a regular encounter or a raid.
Yeah. Your 2-minute mage.
Ben, what does Greg say?
Greg says, fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighters allow anyone to play them, but newbies are just going to be doing the button mashing because they don't know any better. That is to say, they don't know the character's pros and cons, the combos, etc. That'll work for a while, but sooner or later, if you take the time to learn how to properly play, or how to play properly, you're going to get destroyed, either by the AI or by another human player. Therefore, I have always argued it's not worth playing one of these games if you're not willing to invest the time from the start to do them right. Can you tell me I'm not a fighting game fan?
I would not tell you you're not a fighting game fan.
Yeah, so I will... mine is sort of in this vein, specifically in at least Soul Calibur 2. Raphael is the fencer who has a extremely cheap spammable move that you can use to get through the vast majority of the game, at least PvE wise. Although I think Greg kind of brings up a good point. One of my biggest complaints with games is I think the difficulty of games, the degree to which it's justified, is proportionate to the degree to which it actually teaches you. And I think the problem with fighting games is I've never seen a fighting game that actually had any mechanisms for teaching you the mechanics.
Well, the tutorial for any given fighting game is playing every single fighting game that came out before it.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. Back way back, playing Mortal Kombat on the Sega Genesis. Like the move that I relied on to beat everybody was just duck and wait for them to approach me and do an uppercut. And I'm like, hey, don't do that. Stop turtling up. But they didn't say that, but that's what I'd be like. Nope, I'll be over here. Come over here. Try and hit me. Uppercut. Whoopsie.
So nobody learned how to do the back low kick where you just trip them over and over again?
Nobody that I played.
That was my cheat in that game.
Yeah. But man, I love how angry skilled fighting game players get when you button mash against them, because it's a little bit like a novice chess player playing somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, oh, you're not on the book. Like, you're completely unpredictable.
Yeah, the same thing actually happens in martial arts, because a lot of it, like particularly, for example, with stick fighting, a lot of the defense relies on the person having a sense of self-preservation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very dangerous to fight someone that won't recognize when they're in danger and call off their attack.
Oh, yeah. Similarly, by fighting somebody who's drunk is not
exactly
great. Yeah. Let's see here. Dennis, what does Michael say?
First off, he says, I'm back in the multiplayer. Welcome back, Michael. He says, old D&D based PC games love to sprinkle in cursed items into early game. You may not be able to identify it yourself that early, and you really want that magical sword. Whoops, and now you're a squirrel or something.
Yeah, same thing with NetHack. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find the specific example of a squirrel anywhere, so I don't know if that's referencing something specific or just a random example. But there's some interesting things in here, like I think it's Dragon Quest has cursed items that are more powerful, but they also will frequently fail to attack in combat, which is a fun idea.
Yeah.
Azure Dreams has items that are cursed that just lowers their effectiveness, but you have to cleanse them. Like, there's some interesting thoughts there.
Yeah, cursed items you can equip but not unequip.
Yeah, that's kind of the stereotypical one. Yeah, I feel like I would actually play a game that makes you into a squirrel.
And that was like the whole thing. Like you had to like save up enough nuts for winter or else you'd die.
Yep. So I know the original NetHack had some interesting things that one of the status effects was hallucinating, and it would change all of the text in the game had a alternate hallucinating version. So like when you hear, a shopkeeper or something like that, and it's worth reading just because a number of them are really out there.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ollie writes, GTA 5 Online. In the first heist, the Fleeka job, you get access to a car called Karuma. In the next heist, the prison job, you get access to a large armored truck with a mounted gun called the Insurgent. Sensitive. Almost always players use the Insurgent after this point when the Karuma is the far superior car in every other heist mission that it can be used in, since it is completely bulletproof up to 8,000 hits. The Insurgent is a massive noob trap. Yeah, I could see that. Something that superficially seems a lot more powerful, but is outstripped by a more subtle benefit. That is like a classic hallmark of the noob trap.
Yeah, this is one of them that very much is a sigh for me, because the Kuruma is just incredibly overpowered in the game. And it's extremely easy to get if you're playing with actual, friends, and it's very difficult to get playing solo.
I gotcha. Yeah, I have no context for it, so I can't add on to it. I can move us.
I like gating it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically after that point you can beat most missions by just driving into it and sitting there and shooting people from your car while they can't shoot you.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Oh,
who knows?
GTA Online isn't about fun.
Good to know. David, what does Lindsay say?
Lindsay says, anyone in Mario Kart SNES flavor besides Bowser or Donkey Kong. Sometimes it's good to be fat, and in their case, being able to knock the other drivers out of the way is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have too many comments on the SNES one. I always end up playing like Bowser in those games later on, but I don't.
It's ultimately like slowest acceleration, but highest top speed, and then ability to knock other people around.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
And also in battle mode, that then means that they can defeat people by simply running into them.
Yes.
Yep. I love battle mode.
Let's see here. David, what does Joe say?
Joe says hero units in Fire Emblem who start pre-prestiged.
Yeah. That is the case for everything except Fire Emblem: the Sacred Stones, where those characters are just always OP.
Yeah. This literally means nothing to me.
Yeah. It's the only one that I played. Like that was like a thing that came up in covering that game for Watch Out for Fireballs.
Yeah, I'm just confused that now Fire Emblem is apparently Harry Potter.
Yeah, the most recent one. It's about the first part's about a school. Yeah. Let's see, Ben, what does John say?
John says grinding levels in Final Fantasy Final Fantasy VIII is a noob trap that bit me the most. Always be card modding. Yeah,
you can make the end game much more difficult on yourself by leveling up, by treating it like it is a regular RPG as opposed to an exquisite broken mess. Let's see. Dennis, what does Nathan say?
Nathan says, it's been a while since I played, and I believe they've done away with this now. I can confirm. But in League of Legends, you used to have to buy runes, flat stat boosts to your characters, with the same in-game currency you used to permanently unlock characters. Runes were separated into 3 tiers, and it fell out that most, if not all, of the lower-tiered runes were inefficient uses of currency. League of Legends culture placed a high value on attaining top-tier play, and runes were essential for top-tier play, meaning people spent a lot of time grinding for small stat upgrades. When each game is around a half an hour or more, netting you a small amount of in-game currency, and when the cool characters all cost bonkers amounts of said currency, many people resorted to spending real money to pay for characters they could have paid for with the time they had used, had they not used it already for runes. Now, if you get really invested in League of Legends, you can easily spend hundreds of hours playing. But I personally know more than one person who has spent more than $1,000 on the free game. Yikes! I don't even want to know what I personally spent on it. I stopped counting when I got to 300.
Big deal.
So
Yeah,
what
and
did they...
the worst part, I remember these runes. The worst part was there were like normal versions of the runes, and then there were scaling versions, which had a lower bonus at lower levels and a higher bonus at higher levels. But those were a trap in 90% of builds, because like the most important thing is to survive to the higher levels. So you always want to take the advantage early versus late. So not only did you have to invest insane amounts in getting these runes, which by the way, there were like 30 rune slots. And there were only 3 types of runes. So you wound up with like 10 of each kind of rune that you would have to buy. It was insane. But no, not only did you have to sink a ton of money into them, but then you could find out retroactively that you had bought the wrong kind. Just really engineered to screw the player.
Yeah, every single part of that sounds fucking awful.
Yeah,
So
and
what did they do when they
done away with
removed them?
Remove the runes?
Yeah.
Oh, like did they give back everyone the currency or what have you? I honestly have no idea. And that community is such. I saw someone post like, normally if you say I have 400 hours in this game, people are like, holy crap, that's a lot. If you tell a League player you have 400 hours in the game, they're like, all right, come back when you've played it a bit.
Yeah.
It's just a weird, different frame of reference. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, hey, the rune system is less frustrating. We keep all the money that you spent on them, though. And people being just fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, all of that sounds hostile.
Do you want me to round out with Nathan's 2.0?
I don't understand it, so go ahead.
I think he's just goofing. He says, I don't like to double post, but another noob trap would be when you're playing fetch and you bring back the ball and actually give it to your owner. Woof.
Yeah.
They're only going to throw it away from you again, man. Maybe that's what you want.
Maybe. I don't know. I've definitely played fetch with dogs who they just want to run around with the ball. They will not relinquish it.
Sucker.
Mm-hmm.
We the dog we had in Austin, when he was like completely tired, that's when he would stop bringing the ball back to you, and so it was a nice barometer. It's like, all right, time to go back then.
Yeah.
I'm done with this by being done with this.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add. Like the Drake sword would have been mine. That is the prototypical one. How about you, David? I mean, you had the fighting game one. Did you have anything to add on that?
That's pretty much just mine. I didn't have a real great one for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say one. Slay the Spire. Don't avoid the bosses on the way to the big boss.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use campfires, and then you don't have to take a card at the end of a battle. And often it's better not to take a card.
Yeah.
Oh, not fluffing out your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, mine kind of goes to the Hearthstone route. And is fairly broad, but I would just say any minion that doesn't have an immediate impact on the board. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of minions out there that just have insane stats. It appears, and it's like, oh, I want something big and beefy out there. That's great, but if you're not doing anything while you're putting that out there, chances are that your opponent is going to be able to deal with it in the turn that you are gifting them before you can do anything with it. Mm-hmm. That's especially true if you're doing arena.
Yeah. Cool.
Or excuse me, I have it backwards. I think it's less true if you're doing arena. I forget. It's been a while since I've played Hearthstone.
I do not have enough knowledge to test the veracity of what you're saying.
I have enough distance from the noob traps that I'm going to fall back into the noob traps. I never start playing again.
Oh, all the same mistakes. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for writing in. I will make sure not to do anything that anybody said in this. I'll get the Drake sword. It's fine for like a moment. Anyway.
It's got a cool name.
Yeah. If you would like to participate in this in the future, go to facebook.com/thelevelpodcast and watch for multiplayer prompts to go up on Monday afternoons. Thank you, Dennis, for posting this.
The End Boss.
Now it is time for the End Boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games that are exciting to us in some way. I'm going to start here. Both of mine are very short, and they're mostly just of personal interest. So anybody who has Spotify can now stream the soundtracks of both NieR and NieR Automata. Not just the original soundtracks as you get them, but also arranged tracks, like arranged versions, including a whole album of piano versions of songs from NieR Automata. Previously, if you wanted to listen to this music, you would just go to some kind of like ramshackle YouTube playlist of these songs and suffer the ads and things. But now you can just play them through Spotify, and that is good, and this music is good. So this is a PSA for everybody who wants to hear good video game music. In addition to that, on the line of video game soundtracks, Steam has made it easier to buy video game soundtracks. In the past, you pretty much had to get it as like an add-on or a bundle with the game when you bought it, but now you can buy them separately, and like you can actually find where the music is and play it. Before, it was really, really hard to get at the music that you might already own because, you know, you may have gotten it in a bundle or something. But now it is more of a storefront for game soundtracks. So if you do not already, you know, own the soundtracks from Humble, if you do not have access to a streaming service that has the stuff on there, and if you're not like plugged into Bandcamp to buy from the composers directly, then Steam is a good way to put all of that music into, you know, your existing video game ecosystem. Yeah, I like listening to video game music, you guys.
I'll drop a link of one really good video game song from Outer Wilds that I heard over the weekend.
Yeah, do that. Cool. Let's see here, Dennis. What's going on with Overwatch?
Yeah, I know I just used a Blizzard game as an example, but there's interesting fallout happening in their attempt to get into esports, which is as they're ramping up towards their third season, a bunch of the commentators who have almost become synonymous with the Overwatch League are jumping ship. And so they've cited different reasons. One is, you know, his spouse moved to a new job, so that you know is run of the mill. But several others are citing kind of creative differences and stuff along that. And there's just this kind of unrest, malaise around what the vision for the Overwatch League should be. And I think there's a couple levels to this. So first off, there's the level of like, in an attempt to make a balanced, serious, competitive sport, have they filed off all the rough edges that are actually fun to watch and talk about in a game? That's kind of one angle.
That's
and I think that
basically what competitive gaming is all about.
Right. Getting all the fun out of a game. That's the intent. But yeah, so and that's what I think the commentators who are leaving have been most vocal about. But I also wonder if there's an aspect of like Blizzard has made itself really easy to hate in the recent past.
Yeah.
And so as people are weighing their options on how affiliated do I want to be with this company, it gets easier and easier to, rationalize creating distance. None of the commentators have come out and overtly said like, "Oh, Blizzard did some really asinine things."
Yeah. That would have been my guess. Is that's what it would have been. But it's interesting that nobody has straight up said that. Like,
yeah, and I don't know to what extent it's like just like you don't burn bridges that badly. Like, you can say there were creative differences and that's kind of safe territory.
Well, also contractually safe too. Like it's a non-disparagement thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
There are creative differences. I was creative. They were different.
I'm going to use that. I like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so interesting to just see some big names that have become synonymous with the Overwatch League jumping ship. I lost interest a while ago, and then I certainly lost interest once Blizzard started just shooting itself in the foot in every imaginable way.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see where this momentum continues.
Yeah, or where they move to, like what their next thing is.
Yeah, they're kind of generally in the caster community, and most of them have backgrounds on games beyond Overwatch. So I don't think they'll have too much trouble finding other things to talk about, nay, yell about, shout about on on the gaming circuit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go to, and I think as time goes on, how the opinions. What's the opposite of soften? Harden, I guess, against Blizzard.
Yeah. David, what is up with Terry Cavanagh?
Yeah, so Terry Cavanagh is the guy who made the game
Bunch of down arrows, 6 Vs, V, and until you're done saying Vs.
Right, and also more recently Dicey Dungeon, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. My favorites of his are Super Hexagon and Don't Look Back. Yeah.
And he is a self-taught programmer, which is at least somewhat relevant to this story because he recently released the source code to VV, and it turns out that a lot of it is really, really bad. One of the points they highlight is a big thing in programming is managing state. So the idea that a lot of the difficulty of the program it comes from basically keeping track of what's presently going on in the program.
Yeah, like understanding what you are passing. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the way that this game goes about it is he just has a 100 entry switch statement.
Okay.
And to give you an idea, like a lot of programmers would advocate that using any switch statement whatsoever is a bad thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there are a lot of people that would take that position. So part of this story is just it kind of being funny and, people, posting tweets of like crazy stuff they found in the source code. But overall, it's been pretty good natured, and it's been interesting because a number of developers have come out and have kind of said like, yeah, this is just kind of the way video game coding is, that there's not enough time to do things right, so you just have to get things out the door as quickly as possible.
Yeah. No,
the Cavanagh kind of is taking a position of, he hopes that maybe this will inspire people to realize that, you don't have to be an amazing programmer to make a game.
This is like really inspirational, actually. First off, his response, I love this tweet. He said, every screenshot I see posted of terrible things in the VVV source code only makes me more powerful. So that's an incredibly good attitude to have towards this. But like, yeah, man, fuck weird backward principles. If it works, man. And if it breaks later because of a mistake you made, you fix it. If it works for your team. It's
important to realize in industry, the way it works is you build it and then get a promotion as quickly as possible so that
somebody else's problem.
Have to deal with it when it breaks.
Yeah. Also, it should be known I noped out of computer science as quickly as I could before I realized it sucks. I understand. I know people like doing that, including people on this show. It wasn't for me, so don't trust anything that I say. There's a tweet in the story that you linked here. This is by Mike Bithell. I don't know what Mike Bithell has made, but they say there's a word for games where the code is barely hanging together with stupid layout, utterly unscalable fixes, and workarounds on top of workarounds. That word is shipped.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like this is not my turn of phrase. I think this is Merlin Mann, but like, man, I will go to bat for efficacious and elegance.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too is you learn a lot by programming things like this. So like you know what works and what doesn't, and you find it out firsthand when you do it. So
yeah, and you know, Brene Brown has recently repopularized the Teddy Roosevelt talk about the man in the ring. You guys familiar with that at all?
No. What is that?
Just about how easy it is to sit back on the sidelines and be a critic and point out how someone's doing everything wrong. But that's all. Ultimately, that is a place that is always going to be forgotten. And that the glory will always go to the person in the ring, even if they are making mistakes, even if they fail. Like the act of getting in the ring. Kind of sets you a league apart from all the commentators out there.
This is really inspiring. I like this story so much.
So get in the ring, write some bad code.
From a computer science standpoint, as someone who tends to come down extremely, extremely strongly on the opposite approach to programming of like, programming is all about principles. I do think there is a significant dynamic of it's kind of like, you look at my code and it doesn't look like all the work I put in accomplished anything, but that's because you don't see all of the problems that never arose because I wrote it in such a way that would be impossible for them to arise. That's the other side from a comp sci point, but this obviously isn't comp sci.
It's more production. It's production.
Exactly.
And I didn't mean to.
Truly, with between stuff like this, learning on the internet and Unity, it's very, very easy to learn to make a game.
And I didn't mean to impugn the way that you choose to work by saying principle is.
I'm bringing this up totally as conversation. Honestly, the conclusion I'm increasingly coming down to, honestly, is I think the ideal is kind of a thing for both, because like the alternative would be this is only accessible because at one point we decide, hey, maybe we don't want to program in machine code. So it's kind of a thing where, the two sides, play off each other. And
I'm also coming at this from the side of writing and other creative production kind of things where like, fuck man, make mistakes. The stakes are not actually that high.
Well, and the ambition to make something better should never supersede the ambition to make something.
Right.
Don't stand in your own way unless you're like programming, programming pacemakers and stuff. then do it. But that's a completely different
test.
I'm remember
perfect is the enemy of alive.
Yes.
Good is the enemy of alive.
I'm reminded of the quote, no ethical programmer would ever write a bomb Iraq function. They would of course write a bomb country function that accepts Iraq as a possible parameter.
Oh jeez.
Oh no.
I don't care for that one bit. But
too real.
Scientists have had their work misused by the military-industrial complex forever. So, Hey Ben, can you pull me out of this hole real quick?
So there we go. We got to the downer section.
I guess.
Tell me about good rockets.
Yeah, no, this one's not really related to video games at all, but it's just a story that seemed cool. SpaceX is going to try and have 1,500 satellites in the sky by the end of the year. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know. But it's going to be 40% of all satellites that have been launched into space before this point, so that's pretty significant.
Wow.
The goal of these is for their, I think it's called Starlink, but it's their internet program. So they're trying to have kind of like global coverage of internet for people. Who knows how good it'll be, though. So
yeah,
but it's a sweet option for people who don't have the option to get internet if they're in a super rural place. So
yeah.
Bring on the Kessler Syndrome.
God, nothing makes me more like gives me like just an existential anxiety attack than Kessler Syndrome or Kepler Syndrome or whatever it is.
Wait, what is that?
I forget. Have we described it on the show before?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember you describing it. So.
Yeah. Kepler syndrome is the notion. So as you put more and more space junk out there, eventually two things are going to collide with each other because there is so much in there. And when they collide, they will break apart into multiple small things that continue moving at roughly basically at the same velocity. And as more collisions happen, more stuff breaks apart until every single level of orbit is full of enough small pieces of debris moving fast enough that you actually cannot escape orbit without being punctured by the equivalent of multiple bullets from every single direction. So it is a way for a species, namely humanity, to become planet locked with no way to get off because they put too much shit into the sky.
Tight.
and it is actually like a fairly legitimate concern with the stuff SpaceX is doing because, as much as I like Musk, he never, does things and then thinks about them afterwards.
Never looks at consequences that much.
Yeah.
Man.
When I was interning at NASA, one of the things I was told is apparently anything they said smaller than about a bolt was too small to damage the International Space Station, and anything larger than a golf ball they track at all times.
Right.
The problem was those things that are in between the two.
It's a lot of stuff. A lot of shrapnel could fit that. Could fit that description. But I don't know. I'm all for anything that involves anything that gets more internet to more people. Yeah. No, there's no other side to that. I don't have another thing to add. Just more internet, more people.
Bring Russian trolling to more people.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, guys, pull up.
The segue is really good into what I'm going to start reading now after the podcast.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about bundling it up?
Buttons.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this episode of The Level 312. Really appreciate you taking the time. Happy to have you here. Hope you come back. It's not always a bummer. We waited a long time for this to become a bummer. The usual stuff you can do. Patreon, leaving ratings or reviews, telling your friends, and most of all, coming back. The Slack channel for patrons is a good, fun place to be. We welcome you to the community with open arms if you would like to participate. Otherwise, though, I don't have anything huge to promote. Just the usual stuff, so I'll keep the admin section short here. Am I forgetting anything?
Think we good.
Okay.
Have you fed Greta?
Yes. She is.
Okay.
So her automatic feeder is gone. I've given her some wet food, and I've also given her some treats at the usual points during the day, usually when she is quiet. So yes, she is taken care of and she is good. Anyway, I've been Kole Ross. You can find my streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/Duckfeed.tv.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can find me somewhere in Ohio.
I'm David Maysmith.
And I'm Ben Merkel on the level.
And stick around for some titles.
Can you imagine a first-time listener checking out the show and being like, "Oh, this is good. I'll get their Twitter handles."
Yeah, no. Let's see here. So, who has titles?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I have things become automatic, then they become hard. I have learning to trust the Guardian system.
Ooh, ominous.
Look dumb, feel cool.
I also have that.
This one just I feel like would be something they would talk about in like Zero Time Dilemma. Simulation sickness.
Oh yeah. I learned that by looking up different kinds of motion sickness. Yeah.
Yep. That's a bike where people yell at you. And spritz them with bullets.
I too had look dumb, feel cool, and spritz them with bullets.
Okay.
I also had it stylized as a bike where somebody yells at you, but I'm not sure I would advocate for that one.
Okay. How about you, Ben?
I just had one. I had literally religiously.
Cool. That might have been from the pre-roll.
It might have.
Yeah. And then let's see here. So I have blow some pixels away. I think referring to the Willy Wonka thing. I thought that was a good phrase. Then I also had look dumb, feel cool. How do you guys feel about look dumb, feel cool?
That's a good
as
one.
the vote winner.
It's looking good.
Yeah.
And feeling good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I've got to go play some Shadowrun, guys.
All right. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck
Yep.
powering through.
Peace.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.